Good evening. My name is Mariel Caballero, and I am the chair of the Planning Commission. Welcome to the Planning meeting. This meeting is being held via Zoom conference call due to the COVID-19 crisis. Members of the public may participate by following the instructions listed on the agenda. You'll also see information at the bottom of the screen that is being cast. You may also view and listen to the meeting on live stream, cable TV, Granicus, and YouTube. If you would like to provide public comment, you have two methods to do so: to identify yourself and to provide comment. All members of the public will remain on mute until the individual identifies they would like to speak and you are unmuted. Following roll call during summary of hearing procedures, we will review how the public may provide comment during today's session. At this time, I will do roll call. Vice Chair Bonilla.
Here.
Commissioner Casey.
Here.
Commissioner Lardinois.
Here.
Commissioner Garcia.
Here.
Commissioner Oliverio.
Here.
Commissioner Torrens.
Here.
Okay. And myself, Chair Caballero, is here. Summary of hearing procedures. The procedure for this hearing is as follows. After the staff report, applicants and appellants may make a 5-minute presentation. City staff will call out the names of the public who have identified the items they want to speak on. You may identify yourself by using the raised hand feature on Zoom or clicking *9 on your phone, or you may call 408-535-3505. Again, that number is 408-535-3505, or email planning support staff at sanjoseca.gov and identify your name, phone number, and what item you would like to speak on. As your name is called, city staff will unmute you to speak. After we confirm your audio is working, your allotted time will begin. Each speaker will have 2 minutes. Speakers using a translator will have 4 minutes. After the public testimony, the applicant and the appellant may make closing remarks for an additional 5 minutes. Planning commissioners may ask questions of the speakers. Responses to commissioners' questions will not reduce the speaker's time allowance. Staff will unmute the speaker to respond to the commissioner. The public hearing will then be closed and the Planning Commission will take action on the item. The Planning Commission may request staff to respond to public testimony, ask staff questions, and discuss the item. If you challenge these land use decisions in court, you may be limited to raising only those issues you or someone else raised at this public hearing or in written correspondence delivered to the city at or prior to the public hearing. The Planning Commission's action on rezonings, pre-zonings, general plan amendments, and code amendments is only advisory to the City Council. The City Council will hold public hearings on these items. Section 20.120.400 of the Municipal Code provides procedures for legal protests to the City Council on rezonings and pre-zonings. The Planning Commission's actions on conditional use permits is appealable to the City Council in accordance with Section 20.100.220 of the Municipal Code. So at this time, I will call our meeting to order and start with item number 2, which is public comment. I invite members of the public to let the clerk staff know if you'd like to speak on an item that is not agendized on tonight's agenda. If you would like to make a comment, please contact the clerk now in the manner specified on page 2 of this agenda to comment again on any item that is not specified on this agenda. Staff, do we have any speakers for public comment for items not on the Planning Commission agenda?
I don't have any that have requested previously, but we do have a hand raised. Brian Darby, are you going to speak on an item that is on the agenda? Or would you like to speak?
Just a public comment, if I could.
Okay, go ahead.
I wanted to, during this hard time and everything, I really want to thank you all for your service and the city's service. It's been hard on everyone, and I appreciate all the work you do. And to my fellow citizens and to the people at the city, my prayers and thoughts are with everybody. Thank you.
Mr. Darby. I'll give a couple of moments just to see if anyone else identifies as wanting to speak on an item not on the agenda. Seeing no hands, staff, has anyone identified that they'd like to speak?
No.
Okay, so we will close the public comment item. We'll move on to item number 3, which is deferrals and removals from the calendar. There are no items under this item, meaning that there is no action required from the Planning Commission. We'll move on to item number 4, which is the consent calendar. There are no items on the consent calendar, which means there is no action from the Planning Commission. At this time, we will move on to the public hearing and to item number 5A, which is H15-014, which is an administrative hearing and appeal of a site development permit to allow the construction of a new approximately 31,000 square foot 3-story retail and office building at the existing shopping center at the intersection of Story Road and King Road, 1664 Story Road, also known as the Tropicana Shopping Center Commercial Development Project. At this time, we'll open the public hearing, and I'd like to ask our city attorney, Vera Todorov, to explain the procedure for a director's hearing appeal. I know that we have several people in attendance who may not have participated in a planning commission meeting previously, as well as several new members of the planning commission. So Vera, if you could explain the procedure, that would be helpful.
Sure, thank you, Chair. This process is pretty much the same as it is for a regular planning commission hearing, even though it's an appeal. Under the municipal code, section 20.100.270, this is a de novo hearing, which means the planning commission is hearing this project anew, as though there were no decisions below. And so you will start with the staff report as you customarily would. Then we'll go to public comments. First, the appellant will have 5 minutes to comment. The applicant will have 5 minutes. Then we take comments from the general public. Then afterwards, the appellant has 5 minutes to rebut, and the appellant has 5 minutes to rebut, and the applicant has 5 minutes to rebut. Then the public hearing is closed, and the commission deliberates or asks questions of staff as they may deem necessary. And I believe that is all.
Great, thank you very much, Vera. So at this time, I'd like to invite our project manager, John Tu, to make his presentation to the Planning Commission related to this item.
Good evening, Madam Chair. John Tu, Supervising Planner for the Planning Division. Before the Commission today is an appeal of the Director's hearing approval of a site development permit that allows the construction of a new 31,744 square foot 3-story retail office building within an existing shopping center on an approximately 3.39 gross acre site. The appeal includes comments on the environmental clearance. However, the appellant did not in a timely manner submit an environmental appeal within the CEQA appeal period. However, staff has responded to their comments within the staff report. Therefore, the item before the Commission is an appeal of the site development permit. In summary, the 3 appeal applications included a request for additional traffic study on Story Road and King Road, request for an environmental impact report, additional parking analysis and additional parking, traffic, pedestrian, and fire truck access, easement title resolution prior to entitlement, aviation easement, request for an in-person hearing, and a request for more detailed sewage treatment analysis. A detailed response to the appeal comments were included in the staff report. Additionally, for tonight, we have our environmental planners and staff from the Department of Public Works to discuss the transportation analysis. First, to address the comments of the easement, staff understands there are private easements and currently a dispute on the language of those easements. But given the nature of the private agreements and easement, it is not in the purview of the city to adjudicate the dispute. And the applicant has agreed to a condition requiring the resolution of the easement prior to the issuance of a building permit. An aviation easement has been requested by the county given its proximity to Reed Hill Airport, and that has been included as a condition, but is not required prior to the issuance of this development permit. In response to the comment about sewage treatment and analysis, as with every project within the city, the project would have to connect to the city sewer pipes to be treated. Staff has found there to be more than sufficient capacity at the 18-inch pipes near the site, handling currently an average flow of approximately 59% of its capacity, and therefore able to support the proposed project. Public Works staff would further elaborate on the transportation analysis, but to clarify, the site is located within the Evergreen East Hill Development Policy Area. In a letter from Councilmember Esparza, it states that the policy is outdated and due to be reviewed and revised later this year. Staff acknowledges that the policy has been in discussion for revisions, but that current status is for staff to present and consideration to the task force, and therefore the task force would then provide a recommendation to City Council for the inclusion as part of the 4-year review. The council would then have to direct us, the staff, to do additional consideration, study, analysis, and to change this policy. Changes to this policy will require significant analysis, outreach, and review, and could take longer than the time period identified in the letter. Until there is a new policy that governs this area, staff has to analyze the project within the policy area for conformance to existing documents and policies. However, additional in-house analysis was conducted to review and analyze the operation and ingress and egress to this site. In regards to the comments about in-person meeting, while we would like to acknowledge that this transition during COVID-19 situation has been difficult, but is done with full consideration to minimize health risks to the public by not holding public hearings in person. Therefore, in conformance with state order and in coordination with other city department, the planning division has been proceeding with virtual public hearing in order for the city to continue to function and to the best of the capacity to allow for public hearing consistent with the state and county requirements while balancing public health needs with the responsibility of the government to continue conducting business and be consistent with the required hearing dates and developments of the permit appeal. The Envision 2040 general plan projects project significant growth for the city. As part of that growth includes strategy to encourage additional commercial employment uses. One of such strategies is to enable infill development of existing commercial center and employment growth areas. The concentration of employment and commercial uses further utilizes existing and future multimodal transportation developments instead of sprawling out developments. Additionally, encourages to not overpark sites, as this would further the dependency on automotive vehicles and would go counter to the city and state goals to reduce vehicles miles traveled and greenhouse gas emissions. Staff acknowledges that changes in travel pattern and mode shift will require additional investment and changes in travel behavior, but encouragement of consistency and incremental development consistent with the general plan and zoning code would allow the city to get closer to the vision as prescribed in the general plan. Staff acknowledges that we have received multiple emails, letters, petitions, and have heard from the community about the project concerns about the changes and developments in the area. As the entire city is evolving, there is a delicate balance between smart growth in order to meet the growing demand of a growing population. Therefore, based on the conformance to the general plan and zoning, and as analyzed outlined in the staff report, staff is recommending the denial of the appeal and the approval of the permit as outlined above in the description. I would like to pass the floor over to Public Works for them to further elaborate on the transportation analysis.
Good evening, Chair. This is Manju Benway with Department of Public Works. In regards to the transportation, the project is located within the Evergreen East Hills Development Policy, which is a City Council policy. Based on the policy, the project is required to pay a traffic impact fee. Payment of the traffic impact fee satisfies the project's environmental requirements with respect to traffic and conforms to the City Council policy. Staff did review the project site plan and concluded that access and circulation are adequate. Staff analyzed the Story and King intersections level of service with project trips. The results indicate the level of service remains at LOSD for both AM and PM peak hours. Per City Council Transportation Impact Policy 5-3, level of service D is an acceptable standard level of service for the city. In addition to the payment of the TIF, the project is conditioned to provide sidewalk, bus shelter, and ramp improvements to promote and enhance multimodal use and experience. The site does have multimodal connectivity via sidewalks along both Story and King and a bus stop on King serving 3 bus routes. Staff is available for additional questions.
So Chair, I will hand it back to you. This includes staff's presentation of the project.
Great, thank you. Do we have any immediate questions from the commissioners of staff related to this project before we move on to the appellant's presentation? Seeing no hands and nobody waving at me from their screen, we'd like to request the appellant presentation, and I believe that's Mr. Aaron Resendez.
Aaron,
And
you are unmuted.
Okay, I'm unmute.
Okay, go ahead, Aaron.
Yes,
You do
I,
have a
I,
slight echo.
no, I'm here. I'm gonna start working this morning on the memorandum, and I've seen many of the items here that I don't agree with, and I don't know how they do or how you do. For example, the parking analysis inside Tropicana Shopping Center. If we have many restaurants, over 1,300 seats on restaurant floor, and the radio that you use on the parking analysis is not compared with other parts of the city where we have the same zone. Uh, the staff response to this in a public hearing calculation, I don't know how you have manipulate all the numbers here in the Tropicana Shopping Center. And also I have a question to Mr. Tu. You know, previously you require a second driveway on Story Road. Now you left it to just one driveway. This will be a chaos on traffic on Story Road. And, you know, will be betray or our community we will left behind to this. We have an overcrowded parking already, and this will push and wave into our community and will affect our community, especially the Kona, back on the Tropicana Shopping Center. And also in my community, on Arbaco neighborhood, where also flipping a little bit to the environmental impact report. The city of San Jose planning and code enforcement have done nothing to make the correction on Cardenas Shopping Center. Putting an enclosure to that garbage cans, when the city, like today meeting, if you approve this proposal, then the city will not follow through with code enforcement, will not follow through with conditions, will not follow through with other items on that big development that is gonna affect our community. The traffic on Storing King, that's another thing that you don't wanna open that worm, that cans of worms, because you know that will come with environmental issues that are happening on Storing King. This is the busiest intersection in all the city of San Jose, and you are putting and faking us with the traffic study that was made on Evergreen more than 15 years ago. So I don't see how you are playing all this. Now, the city of San Jose hasn't cleaned all Story Road behind 101, all the homeless, all the dumping that we have around the neighborhood. And one of the things that I saw on the consultant environmental impact report is that maybe he did it from Google Earth, where the intersection looks great, including the Emma Prush Park. But when you walk like myself, that I walk every day this neighborhood, it's not the same that I see everything, but especially the city of San Jose that doesn't do their work on sweeping the street, their work with code enforcement, that they don't treat the same a small business as a big business. And for example, to the city environmental services and the city code enforcement, they go in a small restaurant, and if the grease trap is not clean, there is fine up to $1,000 for that. When there is a big development, and after the big development, start trashing and start dumping, the city of San Jose doesn't pay attention with what they're supposed to do. They don't have enough people all the time, and they don't have enough resources to help our community once a project like this one is approved. And a project like this one that will betray our community, that will put trash in the community, and that will have a big impact in our community. Last, our community is not up in Zoom. It's not up in the digital age. We're so far behind, and we should at least postpone this meeting to a later day when the pandemic is over. But this is taking advantage of us, taking advantage of our community, that we will never be back as we were before. This is not good for the community. This is not good for Storing King. And I hope all the planning commissioners, especially the new ones, exercise your power to override what the planning director is saying and what the planning manager is saying about this project. Thank you. You have any questions? You can make any question.
Thank you, Mr. Resendez. Do any of the planning commissioners have questions for the appellant? Okay. We'll also have another opportunity to ask questions before we close the public comment. At this time, I'd like to invite the applicant to present, and I believe Dennis is available to present. I'm sorry, I don't have your last name in front of me.
I believe he's going to have counsel Jerry speak on his behalf, Jerry Houlihan, and he can refer over to the applicant if they want to speak after in his allotted time. Apologize, we didn't get a chance to update that list.
Thank you.
Jerry, you are unmuted.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner. All the commissioners. I'm here just to let you know we have Dennis Fong, the applicant, and Steve Yang, the architect, to answer any questions as well. We're sort of spreading out in my conference room with masks. I take a couple of minutes here just to respond to the applicant or the appellant, I guess. Obviously, all of the code enforcement issues that he addressed are not really before you at this point in time. That's not a responsibility of Mr. Fong or this project. But he spoke about a couple of the plans that I'd like to address directly. The initial study actually found that this project's in compliance with and supports the Kona East Valley Community Plan. It's in conformance with the general plan. And in my letter that you received, I listed some of the land use policies that it supports, but the staff report did an excellent job, as did the initial study of identifying all of those. And the other thing is that it, as part of the Evergreen East Hills development policy, it's also in conformance with that. And as staff pointed out, the traffic studies were done as part of that. But in addition, there was a separate finding made that the VTA's congestion management plan was not violated by this project, or this project was in conformance. So those are key points to keep in mind based on what we heard today. At this point, one of the issues that keeps coming up is the parking. So we're going to have Steve Yang, the architect, just quickly take you through the parking portion of this project. Hey, so actually, John, we're going to have to do Steve through Jenny's computer. Are we able to show exhibits?
Danielle, are we going to be able to let her share the screen if we use, I think, Jenny, can you raise your hand so you can get to the top of her list so we can make sure?
Okay.
I think she's going to be the one that's going to speak next. And then,
Okay, I just promoted Jenny.
so I believe, Jenny, you can now share your screen.
Okay. Is it shared already, or do I need to push something?
You would have to press the share button, I believe, right?
Oh, it's already shared. It's green. Yeah. Okay. All right.
All right, let's restart the timer.
Okay.
Danielle, I think you have to do verbal timing, right? If they're going to be sharing the screen.
Yeah, I'll let you know when you have 30 seconds left.
Okay.
Do you want to start with the daytime view? The nighttime
Okay, this is Steve Yang, architect, and I'm glad to be here. Thank you for giving me a chance to describe the building. Number one, the building presenting from you is gonna be it's a daytime.
I'm sorry.
Three-story building along.
One second. Are you speaking on Jenny's or are you speaking on Jerry's? If one of you
Jenny's.
Yeah, can you speak? Jerry, can you mute yourself?
Can you?
Oh, that's right. You're gonna mute. Otherwise, it got echo.
Sorry, commissioners.
Okay, let me continue. This is daytime view of the street curb review. And there's a 3-story blocking the parking behind it, which is gonna be a nice building to close the end of the shopping center. And also the next one will be a night view. You can see that it's gonna be very beautiful night scene, looking again from the curb street. And so the two big picture is represent Mexican architecture, all right? Which is in the past, I designed 3 different East Side Mexican building. This is the 4th one, which I'm proud of that. Okay, the next one I'm talking about the parking. The parking, do you have the parking? Okay, back to the, okay, this is fine. This parking lot is area view taken in year 2019. One of the Sunday morning, you can see that parking lot is not congested. The next one, again, you can see.
Jenny, I think you have to switch back to your other screen because it's still frozen on the elevation, the night elevation.
Oh, okay. Let's back to parking.
If you need to, you can unshare and just share again and switch to the other screen. Sorry, Chair, do you want me to let you do those things?
Fine, John, thank you.
What one do you want? This one?
Is that better?
At least.
Okay, we now have an aerial view of the parking, and if we could just get a quick time check from the clerk.
Yeah, this is a picture taken in 2019, October 25th, Friday morning, sometimes, probably in the noon time, you can see the shadow line. So basically, the parking on both sides, separated by Story Road. And on the left side, it's a shopping center. On the right side is Target. So it's not a very crowded. And also you can see the U-shaped parking lot in the middle of the building gonna stand there, close the whole gap. The next one, please. This is again, this is another view taken last year, April 21st, Sunday. You can see much less parking occurred on the shopping center either side. So we feel that the parking may not have a problem. And Jenny, can you go the next one, which is showing our proposed site plan showing the parking? Yes, this is when building built along the top of King Road. That's the building, which about 31,000 square feet, 3-story. Behind the building, which is surrounded by the existing building, 1 to 2-story building.
Mr. Yang,
Yes.
the chair, we are not seeing anything different. So you're describing
Okay.
a building you can see.
Can you see the site plan? Which is the proposed parking circulation?
Yes, we are now looking at
Okay,
a site.
all right, let me go over it again quickly. The building on the top along King Road, that's the building. Then flank the building, they are exiting and in and out. That's the street coming, the traffic are coming from the King Road. And the traffic will flow into the center, which is a revised upgrade parking lot and shared by all participants, all retail stores. And also to the left, we have on the top, we have a lateral exiting, which is the current 1, and built to release the traffic from the parking lot all the way to the King, and right turn only. And Dennis and I added 1 parking lateral exiting, which is the second one. Again, it's a right turn. Yes.
I think your time is up. Is that correct? Miss Danielle or Jennifer?
He has 15 seconds left.
Okay.
Okay. So this is basically a parking lot versus the building and the exiting of the parking lot and release the traffic flow. I think that this is also a major thing down the road is the parking lot, the number of parkings still a surplus, even the building built there. And according to the city of San Jose's parking regulation, we are still on the positive side by 25%. So we and planning review that thing, which is really indeed meet the parking standards.
All right.
That's it.
I think your time is up. Thank you. Okay. At this time, do we have any questions from the commissioners for the applicant, or would the commissioners prefer to wait until after the hearing? After public comment to ask any questions?
Public comment for me.
Okay. I'm not seeing any hands being raised. Let's, Jennifer and Danielle, if we could, I see 6 hands raised in the public comment area, and I'm sure you've received others perhaps via email or phone. If we could go ahead and start with public comment, and each member of the public has 2 minutes.
Okay, I do have on my list Michael Pierce. Let me see here. I was going to see if he could raise his hand, but there's a lot of hands raised. Let me think. Okay, phone number ending in 008. Is this Michelle or Michael?
Hi, this is Michelle.
Okay, go ahead with your comment.
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioner Caballero and the fellow members of the Planning Commission. My name is Michelle Liu. In my day job, I serve as CEO of the Health Trust, a local nonprofit. We provide health insurance enrollment counseling at the Tropicana Shopping Center, as well as a free monthly produce distribution to local residents. Every time that I have been able to go to Tropicana, I've never had a problem finding a parking spot. In addition, before I joined the Health Trust, I served as CEO of a local community health center from 2005 to 2016. In that time period, our organization looked for years for suitable medical office facilities in East San Jose near the intersection of King and Story. And what we found was a huge scarcity of appropriate office space that could accommodate us and that was in the right location. When I look at the proposed building, it really excites me. I think it's going to be an asset for the community. I read the staff recommendations, and I encourage you to follow those staff recommendations and deny the appeal. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Okay, next we have Cecilia. You are unmuted. Please unmute yourself and begin to speak.
Hello, my name is Cecilia Escamilla, and bájale el volumen. And I've lived here since 1981, on and off, but mostly here. And I just have some questions because as much as, yeah, there's sometimes that there is some parking available and everything, especially right now with the COVID-19, it's not up to what it's normally is, the volume of people there. And one of the things that was mentioned earlier on, that parking, and then we were shown a picture that showed this really nice clear area, and it was a Sunday morning. But you know, you got to realize that a lot of the Hispanic community are very much religious oriented, and a Sunday morning, a lot of them are at church. They're not going to be in Tropicana Shopping Center. You know what I mean? Also, when was the traffic analysis made on Story and King? With the COVID-19 and shelter in place and all this stuff that has been going on in 2020, if it was done in this time, it's not going to be a clear reflection of true traffic. And the impact is not really going to be shown to what it will be once everything's back to normal. as much as the idea of having a community clinic be there, maybe it could be placed somewhere else. But, you know, because then how many people, what's the staff going to be? They're all going to need parking. The patients are going to need parking. And for me, I walk through that area all the time. And when it's normal business as usual, people are fighting it. Even now, it's not an easy and clear thing. People are always driving crazy in there, trying to get out, sometimes even walking through. You get a little bit worried because people could, you know, run you over and stuff. And if there's more business, that's a 3-story building, a lot more businesses. And what about the people are already employed? Is that going to affect them that work here in the Tropicana Shopping Center already?
Thank you, Cecilia. Next, we have M. Dean Sutton. You are unmuted. Please unmute yourself and begin to speak.
Good evening, members of the commission. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good, thank you. My name is Dean Sutton. I'm a lawyer. I'm the lawyer for Henry Wee and Tropicana Land Company, a general partnership. I'm speaking about the problem of the easement which exists. I know it's probably beyond your purview for you to decide the ultimate easement issues, but at a minimum, I would ask you to please make it, as it is now, I believe, an express condition of the approval that it be resolved. I'm quite prepared to go to Superior Court and have it resolved there, which is, of course, probably where it should be. I would ask you to deny permission or deny the permits for the building based on the easement. But if you don't want to do that, at least require that that be resolved. And with Mr. Wee's permission and instruction, we can go to Superior Court if we have to. I hate to have litigation if it's not necessary, try to resolve the matter, but go and have it resolved. I'm prepared to do so. In 1959, there was a deed, it was recorded expressly stating declaration of restrictions, divided the property into 2 parts, and the part which is the Tropicana store has the right to use the parking on the other part. Whoever owns that property, it's subject to this easement. And Mr. Fong's development is ignoring that, hoping to twist an interpretation of the language saying that somehow that easement for parking terminated somewhere along the line. I respectfully disagree. I believe the Superior Court will agree with my position. Questions?
Okay, thank you. Next, we have Hogan. You are unmuted. Please unmute yourself and begin to speak.
Hi, hello everyone. This is my first public commission meeting, and I saw it on a postcard and I thought I'd participate. And listening to the first speaker with the appellate, I'm a resident of this Tropicana neighborhood, very close to the Tropicana site, and lived here for 37 years. And I've seen the changes from where the Placita has turned in from the Woolworths shopping center, where the extra, what was it? Newberries has turned into the shopping center it is. We're pressed for parking as it is right now. And looking at the picture that was provided by the attorneys for Dennis Fong, it showed a Sunday morning where there was no parking, and then it also showed, I think it was a Friday, and you can see that the parking's pretty much maxed out. Anytime that we experience an event in our area, whether it's a circus that's at Prush Park or a major event, the Tamale Festival, or anything else at the Prush Park, we get overflow parking into our neighborhoods, which makes our already minimal parking available for residents that live here to nothing once these events come in. I see that adding this building to the Tropicana corner will actually rob us of the additional parking, or I'm sorry, rob us of additional parking as people that choose to go there would overflow into our neighborhoods. And then I don't know if the Target shopping center is okay with it, but I have a feeling that they would be impacted as well as people that may choose to shop or go to Tropicana would use their parking spaces to park there. We've seen a lot of changes in our neighborhood, and we're very proud of the progressive nature of the construction, bringing in Tropicana and whatever. Anyways, I just want to make sure that we're not forgotten as the residents of this neighborhood. We are impacted by all these decisions and taking away our parking spaces is not acceptable. Thank you for listening to me. I hope the decision is made. Correct.
Thank you. Next, we have Salvador. You are unmuted. Please unmute yourself and begin to speak.
Yes, hi. Good evening. My name is Salvador. I'm one of the co-owners of Tropicana Foods. We've been here for a long time, and we want to let you guys know that we invite you guys to come one Sunday or one Saturday in the evening or in the morning so you can see the real life, because the pictures that Dennis shows, that's not a real pictures. Once you come inside the parking lot, you can take like 10 to 15 minutes to get out. To find a parking lot, sometimes you have to spend like half an hour. And most of our customers, they're already in over 50, 60 years old. They don't, imagine they have to walk from the neighborhood. Like right now, we have a problem already because sometimes we have 60 employees and we have to send them to the streets to park so we can have more parking spaces for our customers. But then he didn't know because he just worried to get the money for the rents. He never got a problem. He got a reserved parking space for him, for his daughter, for his son, so he don't have to deal with it. But we do. That's why I want to invite you guys to come one day, one Saturday, one Sunday, to come over and walk. Like the first lady, they say that she's very happy because of she can give food away. Yeah, she give it away, but that's on Wednesday morning when it's no traffic at all. So you guys welcome to come any day, any Saturday, Sunday, Friday evening. And right now with the COVID-19, you can see there's a lot of damage to our community already, and you guys make Dennis build a building, there will be a more huge impact. Because already a lot of business go out of business. Even in La Placita, there's already a lot of people move out. If you guys got any questions, we're here to help you, and then we want you guys to help us.
I have a question. So it seems to me that the common theme that I've heard so far is traffic, right? Are the residents and business owners that are requesting that that this decision be repealed requesting that we not build something there, or that
Commissioner Garcia, we're having a hard time understanding you. Your video is cutting in and out.
Sorry about that. So are the residents and business owners that are requesting or appealing this decision, are they requesting that the project change in scope and size, or are they simply requesting it not go forward, period?
I think we can reserve that question for the appellant and perhaps get a response to that, or if any of the future public commenters want to comment, unless that's specifically for Mr. Ibarra, who just finished speaking.
That is for Mr. Ibarra, yes.
Mr. Danielle or Jennifer, can we allow Mr. Ibarra to respond to that question, please?
Yes, sorry, what was
Salvador.
Okay. Salvador, you are unmuted.
Yes, sir. To respond to your question, we don't want to do anything because, like I said, you guys don't know anything about it in here. But you do a new traffic analysis and in the story, you go see that there's a very hard. Another thing, you guys don't pay the rent that we pay. If we don't have customers, we don't know able to pay the rent. And once we don't pay the rent, we have to move out. Like I tell you already, Venice got a lot of empty spaces inside La Placita because there's no parking spaces. And he knows, but he don't mind. But like I say, I invite you to eat the Tropicana foods, and you can see one day, Saturday, Sunday, Friday evening, or any day, and then you go see there's a parking here. There's no enough space for more cars.
All right, thank you very much. Just for the rest of the speakers, it should wait to be acknowledged before you start speaking. That way we can ensure that the next public speaker can be ready to respond to your question. Thank you. Staff, if we could have the next public speaker.
Okay, I believe that was Deloa. You are unmuted. Please begin to speak.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So I was one of the people that attended the Hubbard meeting for the planning for this, one of the planning meetings for this at Hubbard Elementary. And a lot of people in the community that actually live on Marsh Street, which is the street right behind the Placita, a lot of the people on that street were physically there. And they were all saying the same thing of the parking. And actually, if to piggyback on what the commissioner was asking, and a lot of the people in the community were saying they do not want that business, that building there. It's just, those pictures are very nice, but we are the ones that actually live in the community. We see it every day. We know how many are in there. We know how much of the parking lot is being used. Now you're going to put a building and take away all those parking spots. They already, granted it was pre-COVID, they already had a lot of the employees parking on Marsh and parking on Lynn already, or going across the street to Target, which is not their problem. The Target parking lot is another private property, and they should never have that into consideration for the parking at Tropicana. All those people on Marsh were saying how all the employees were parking in their neighborhood and walking over. Pompano, Longview, Marsh. Why? Because the parking lot is full. And if they want customers to come here, you gotta have parking spots. So yes, the census from the community that actually live around there, Lynn, Marsh, Pompano, Longview, is that they don't want the building there at all because it does take away parking spots. All of those, and it's a 3-story building. All the buildings around here are 1, maybe 2, but the 3-story building, it's kind of an eyesore actually. The graphics, the image was nice, but it does not look proper in this community. So we, as the community that actually live in the area and see it every single day, do not want this building there. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Anna. Anna, you are unmuted. Please unmute yourself and begin to speak.
Ok, yo soy Ana María Escamilla y yo vivo aquí en la NAX, en la esquina contra Story y cerquita del Tropicana. Y tengo aquí viviendo ya más de 35 años. Y últimamente, varios años para atrás, es tremendo tráfico que siempre están navegando aquí para salir del driveway de la casa, para salir a agarrar el Story. Y somos dos buildings antes y a veces se llevan hasta media hora, 40 minutos para salir por el exceso de tráfico que viene que se desliza, viene por King, se desliza por la March a salir por la NAX para agarrar el freeway o la Story, y la Story está tan llena que se dirigen hacia el shopping vietnamés que está enseguida, que es un trafiquero que no se puede pasar para ningún lado. Yo quiero que a alguien de ahí que de veras se les interese, que vengan y que caminando y que, como dijo la persona que habló hace ratito, que se enteren, que miren en realidad, que no se dejen nomás por las fotos esas bonitas que ponen, porque en realidad esta persona nunca ha vivido aquí. No sabe exactamente, él nomás quiere venir a poner su business aquí, a sacar dinero de los que aquí vivimos a costa de corajes, de desesperación, que nos sentemos impotentes por todo ese santo trafiquero. Y este señor quiere venir a poner otra vez otro business que al cabo él no vive aquí. Nosotros somos los que vivimos aquí y no nos escucha la ciudad. Entonces, ¿a dónde nos vamos a dirigir? Es demasiado ya y queremos que por favor usted, señora Caballero, haga una decisión y que vengan y se fijen, que vean realmente lo que quiere hacer este señor. Muchas gracias y espero que hagan algo de veras en beneficio por la comunidad, por la área de aquí, de todos los vecinos. Gracias, muy amables.
Señora Escamilla, ¿tienes alguien que se puede traducir para usted?
¿Qué va a traducir?
Sir Caballero, do we have a translator for this?
I mean, I can give you a rough draft. I didn't go word for word.
Yeah, Commissioner, you shouldn't be doing that. We need to have staff do that. You're a decision maker. You should not be translating.
Okay, thank you.
And this should not have been taken without a translator translating issue it. So do we have a translator who can translate what was just said?
And yeah, would you be able to translate that?
And I agree with you, Vera. I was just trying to be helpful.
I understand.
Yeah.
Usually the speakers request a translator ahead of time, and that's listed on the agenda how to do that. And so this is unexpected, but if somebody is able to translate basically what the lady said, that would be great.
Is there another public speaker who would be who's available to translate, or any staff who might be available to translate? As we said, both Commissioner Bonilla and I could probably give you a rough overview, but that's not acceptable in this situation. So we'll give a second to see if anyone can translate. And I think that it would be helpful for other folks who are going to speak, if you could identify at the beginning that you would like a translator, or if you have a translator, then we can give you the appropriate 4 minutes.
Yeah, the entire commission needs to understand what she's saying.
Yeah.
Okay, I believe I saw Cecilia raise her hand twice. Cecilia, were you raising your hand for that?
Yes, I was. The person that was speaking is actually my mom. And I've
Okay.
always translated for her. And I actually was at the Hubbard meeting. So maybe if any of you were there, you would have seen me. I can translate what she said.
Great. Thank you. Just give us 1 second to restart the timer so we can give you your 2 minutes. And we appreciate you translating on behalf of your mother.
Sure.
So if we could restart the timer and give Cecilia 2 minutes to translate Senora Escamilla's testimony.
Okay, basically she said that she's been living here for more than 35 years and that the traffic, she lives on Knox Avenue, which is right behind Tropicana Shopping Center, and that the traffic is really, really bad. Sometimes exiting the driveway here pre-COVID, because right now it's COVID, so that changes things, but that sometimes to exit the driveway could take anywhere from 15 to half an hour, even 45 minutes to get out, especially on heavy rush hour times and stuff. She said that it leads to a lot of anger, a lot of sense of hope, impotence, because you feel powerless, and that she really hopes that you can listen to the people living here, because as a resident, as living in this area and living here for so long, she feels impotent, and not she feels that her voice is not being heard, and that what she feels and cares about is not being heard, and that the person who wants to build this building over there is doesn't even live in this neighborhood. He doesn't have a house here. He doesn't live here. He doesn't really know, and she feels that he's just coming here to try and create an investment opportunity to gain income, and doesn't really care about the community. At least that's how she's feeling. And ¿tiene otra cosa que quiera decir?
Sí, que porque que si eso es lo que quiere hacer, que entonces tumbe todos los edificios para que haya más parking. Y entonces
He says that maybe he should build more parking, like a parking garage or something like that. Maybe that way, then there would be more parking available to sufficiently But right now, she doesn't feel that there is sufficient parking because then we get all the overflow around from all the different things when everything is full and not COVID pre, you know. So she says, just come down right now and you'll see there's a ton of people there, and all the businesses are not open.
Okay, thank you very much. We appreciate your assistance in translating.
Thank you.
Okay, and next we have Lynn. Lynn, you are unmuted. Please unmute yourself and begin to speak.
Hi. Hello. My name is Lin Wei from Tropicana Food. I'm here to petition again the project file H15014. What about I'm about to say, everyone feels it's too overcrowded parking and congestion traffic, and we work here and we don't have parking space for our worker, for our customer. So again, I'm repeating what most of the neighborhood people and business owner here say. We do not want this project to move forward. Please listen to us, because if one day we invite you to come over on the weekend so you can see it, I will be here guiding you around the mall. And when you see it, you wouldn't think this is a good plan for the neighborhood. I know I have much time left, but that's all I want to say. And thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Richard. Richard, you are unmuted. Please unmute yourself and begin to speak.
Hi, my name is Richard. I'm a resident of San Jose, California, local to the Tropicana area, and I'd like to express my opposition to this building development. As many have explained before, this location already has an overcrowded parking lot, and it flows into the nearby neighborhoods. And by constructing this building on the existing lot, it would reduce the number of spaces and it would create more unnecessary traffic. This would only exacerbate the already poor traffic conditions. And it's easy to take a convenient snapshot of the parking area when it's more open to make your case, but to live in the community and to actually visit the plaza and to experience the overcrowded conditions, it's a different story. As one of the previous speakers mentioned, currently with the COVID conditions, the current levels of traffic are not indicative of how traffic is normally presented, and a proper analysis needs to be made. Additionally, from the legal standpoint, the lot has an easement agreement in place that prevents the construction, with the rights being in the hands of the retail owners, and it should be abided by. I request that the planning commissioners please reject this permit to build on the Tropicana Plaza, as it would cause more problems for the customers, the merchants, and the surrounding community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Victoria. Victoria, you are unmuted. Please unmute yourself and begin to speak.
Hi, good afternoon, commissioners. My name is Victoria Partida. I'm the president of the Tropicana Lanai Neighborhood Association, which is located behind the Tropicana Shopping Center, where we have over 10,000 residents behind Tropicana. We ask you to oppose the development as the Evergreen Eastside Development Plan was implemented over a decade ago, and it's due to be revised later this year as part of the city's 4-year general plan update. This project is on the furthest corner of the Evergreen Eastside Development Plan and is vastly different community than the other communities within this plan. Pushing this project through with an abundance of community opposition because of an outdated plan is not in the best interest of the community. In addition, we also know that the intersection at Story and King is already heavily impacted by traffic by reducing the quality of life for the surrounding neighborhoods. This intersection is rated a D, the minimum acceptable level under city's transportation level of service policy, and staff is waiving a traffic study based on a 12-year-old plan stating the negative impact on traffic is insignificant. Without a traffic study, we cannot be certain this project will have a negative impact on traffic in this area. This is where I live and I provide for my family, and we cannot reduce our quality of life based on a 12-year-old plan without doing our due diligence by conducting a traffic study. I also emailed you some pictures of how the the parking lot looks on a Sunday afternoon right now during COVID, and it is full even though we are supposed to be sheltering in place. Please do not support this plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Francis Herbert. Francis, you are unmuted. Please begin to speak.
Francis, if you're speaking, we cannot hear you. You need to unmute yourself, please. There you go.
Hi, I'm Francis. I'm the Chief of Staff for Councilmember Magdalena Carrasco, who represents District 5, which is adjacent to the property. She wanted to express her concerns about the development. We've met with the business owners at Tropicana and adjacent businesses and neighborhood leaders and associations over the past 2 years who have serious concerns about the impact to the traffic along King and Story and the parking circulation within the shopping plaza. Just as everyone has said, you can go there on a Sunday afternoon. It is completely packed. It's very unfortunate that they were showing pictures before the stores were open. And as a former resident of this neighborhood, having experienced the significant traffic, there's no kind of fees that would fix the problem. This is a built-in infrastructure problem that can't be fixed with mitigation fees. And so we wanted to raise our concerns about this project and hope that you will accept the appeal and deny the permits for this project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jennifer, Danielle, before we move to the next speaker, I just want to announce that we have 4 speakers left. If you would like to speak during this public comment section, please notify the clerk either by raising your hand or by calling in versus the instructions that were previously there. We will not be accepting new public comment after 7:40, so please identify yourself. That'll take us to the next 4 speakers. So thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Jenny. Jenny, you are unmuted. Please unmute yourself and begin to speak.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, my name is Jenny Nui, and I live in East San Jose. I want to appeal and stop the construction at Tropicana Foods. There are many issues related to this construction. One of these, as you heard, is traffic violations and analysis that was used many years ago. It needs to be assessed, that the true assessment needs to be done on Story King versus the Evergreen area. Number 2, there's a parking analysis, as you heard from many others, that there's not enough parking spaces for the residents or shoppers or even employees around, and overflow parking has been going through the neighborhood, which is not giving a good quality of life or even a sense of security around the neighborhoods. Number 3 is the easement right, that Dennis Fong should not be building on the easement of that ownership from the current retail owners. That needs to be addressed and at least approved before this can even go forward for any construction or development. That easement right belongs to the current owners, the retail owners today, and it does not belong to Dennis Fong, where he is violating that easement. So I fully object this construction, and I thank you for hearing my concerns.
Thank you. Next, we have Galaxy S9. If you could state your name for the record. You are unmuted. Please begin to speak. Galaxy S9, you are unmuted. I know that's not your name, so you might not know I'm calling out to you.
Let's come back to them and see if they can unmute themselves.
Okay. Dennis King. Dennis, you are unmuted. Please unmute yourself and begin to speak.
Thank you. Commissioners, my name is Dennis King, Executive Director of the Hispanic Chambers of Commerce. Nice to see you virtually. I'm looking forward to the time where we can have meetings in person. Our Hispanic Chamber has been working with many of the merchants there and me personally, for more than 2 decades. We've helped them most recently in helping a number of them getting their PP loans of those that qualify. Unfortunately, a number of them don't. So we're looking for new ways to do this. 20 years ago, the big issue for East San Jose, particularly at Story and King, was called leakage. And that was a lack of businesses, a lack of jobs that were there, and that there was some effort to say, well, what can we do to re-spark things economically for East San Jose? This project is that in mind. With businesses are located outside of East San Jose, East Side residents need to travel to go there. And this is an effort to, again, be more local and more convenient for those that are in that particular community. A few years ago, I joined the mayor in the study of downtown Seattle. To make a long story short, the future that we've been told for shopping centers and for downtowns is to move more and more away from cars and more about people and public transit. San Jose is a very awkward time period where we're moving from what we've done in the past to what we need to embrace in the future. And this project reflects the future. The building reflects the culture as well. So for a lot of reasons, we think, as awkward as this may be for some right now, in this time of transition, this is best for all concerned. We support it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dennis. Next, we have Steve. Steve, you are unmuted. Please unmute yourself and begin to speak. Steve, if you could unmute yourself.
Okay, here he goes. Hi, sorry about that. I'm logged on a phone line as well as the Zoom line, but now I'm online here, so I'm just gonna try to address this as best I can. I understand I have 2 minutes, so I'll try to get through this as succinctly as I can. I know a lot of folks have already addressed the parking issue. I share those concerns. I'm a neighborhood resident. I've been here for about 16 years, a San Jose resident for about 20. The thing that I wanted to address was actually, to me, the kind of resultant impact on the existing businesses, specifically in the Tropicana shopping center. One of the things I noticed about the other surrounding businesses and the other strip malls that are surrounding this shopping center, Starbucks, Chase Bank, Target, Wingstop, and all these others are nationally known brands with a sizable presence, a lot of customer brand recognition. The existing businesses that operate in the Tropicana shopping center are not those companies, with the exception of maybe T-Mobile and Bank of America, which are right on the corner. Building a 3-story building that's an obstruction to the view on the road, on King Road, as customers either drive by or walk by, basically cuts off or chokes off visibility to those businesses, to that flow of traffic that's coming through. That's essentially a lifeline to those businesses who have to establish and build a brand that otherwise they just don't get the benefit of. And considering the fact that we are in the middle of a pandemic where that visibility by foot traffic or driving traffic as they move through the neighborhood is even more critical, because folks are just not going to be as inclined to drive through strip malls as often as they were before. I find it astonishing that we would put up such a barrier to entry for these existing businesses, of allowing them to be able to have traffic, have people park in those areas, to be able to find those businesses. I ask the commission to seriously consider the impact to the existing businesses, the plea of the neighbors for what this will represent. There is a way to be able to advance development and be able to build this or push us into the future. I don't think this is it. And I seriously ask you to consider that. Thanks.
Thank you, Steve. I'm also wondering, were you calling in from the Galaxy S9 as well?
That was me.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, our next is Mindy. Mindy, please unmute yourself and begin to speak. Mindy, if you could unmute yourself. There you go.
Hi, are you able to hear me?
Yeah, there's a little bit of an echo, but we can hear you.
Okay. Thank you for, let me hang up on my other side. Thank you for letting me speak. Hello, Planning Commissioners. I am a local resident of San Jose. I've lived here for over 35 years, and I wanted to appeal to stop the construction at the Tropicana Foods Plaza, not just to build a smaller site, but just to completely deny that building, because it does add a negative impact to our community. I go there often. Tropicana has one of the best fresh tortilla. To get in there, you have to wait in traffic to drive into the Tropicana Plaza. Once you get in, it's difficult to find parking. I've been a loyal customer, so I do go there, but I do notice that this is going to lose business for the Tropicana Center, as well as the small businesses that is there already, that is already hurting from COVID. This is something consistent with everyone, my concerns, the traffic, the parking, the impact on the neighborhood. And Steve, he brought up a great point that it is blocking view from traffic or from pedestrians walking by, that you are not able, for new customers, you are not able to see what is in there, because there is a lot of small business owners, and you're blocking that view for them, and it will impact their business. This is a huge concern, not just for me, but for the people within the neighborhood. And if you can just go there and see the impact on the center and the community, you will understand that there should be better places to build, and not at this center. Thank you.
Thank you, Mindy. Okay, next we have Henry. Henry, you are unmuted. Please begin to speak.
Hello, you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Good evening, Commissioner and Chair Commissioner. My name is Henry Nguyen. I am in the area for 37 years. I work here, live here, and grow up here. And I see the community grow as along with the small business mom and pop business grow in the Tropicana intersection, King and Story, especially in Tropicana Shopping Center. You can see we have Silicon Valley or San Jose have many of the big shopping center, what Steve just mentioned, like with the well-known national known company. But in here, only mom and pop. They offer to the community all their saving put into the business. They work in here. That's why create the Tropicana Shopping Center so special. And put in the building like this will take away the parking, will not the visibility of the shopping center, will make a big impact on their livelihood. To Dennis Fong, it's just another building that he owns. But to the local mom and pop and the community in the East San Jose, Story and King, is their lifetime saving. It's their livelihood. I urge you to reject the project entirely. I am the owner and I have the easement right. We have the whole easement from the whole parking lot from King Road to the front of Tropicana building, to the left of the L shape, to the right of the two-pad building.
15 seconds.
Easement area. Therefore, we will fight. Imagine it will have few thousand of people fight for their legal right. It will take the building down if he built. Thank you so much for listening. Please reject the project entirely.
Thank you. Let's see. I thought I saw another name. Oh, Cecilia, were you going to speak again, or did you have someone that you needed to transfer?
No, I just forgot, or my time ran out earlier on, and I was wondering if I could add an additional part to my earlier comment.
Okay.
No, sorry, everyone's only allowed 2 minutes to speak, but thank you very much.
Okay.
Was she speaking for translation, or was she speaking on our behalf? Because that's all.
I spoke earlier as well.
Okay.
And then I think Aaron and Jerry are applicant and appellant, if I'm not mistaken. So, so seeing no additional public comment, and it's 7:45 past the time that I said we would take additional hands up. At this time, I'd like to close the public comment portion of the hearing, and we'll give the applicant 5 minutes to respond to public comment. So let's go ahead and get that set up. And
okay. Sorry.
Sarah, can I verify real quick? Is it the applicant or the appellant who speaks first and then who speaks last on this? I know we had one format. I think you said something differently earlier.
Appellant goes first because this is an appeal hearing.
And then that would be the applicant last then.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
sorry.
You want me to speak?
5 minutes apiece.
So
Okay.
Aaron?
I'm going to talk about what Salvador was talking about, the parking analysis. You know, you have to make a parking analysis with a gross square footage of the dining areas of the number of restaurants that exist inside Tropicana Shopping Center. You have not taken that in consideration. You have also do a parking radio requirement with the traffic analysis, and a real space is required, because this is the thing. They manipulate the radio of the parking and compare this with other shopping centers, and you will see the difference on the manipulation of the parking analysis. Also, when they presented a picture that has another driveway, Dennis Fong cannot do a driveway because that property piece belongs to Tom View, one of the parking lot owners, that he's not allowing to do the driveway there. So that's a lie. And also, there is a need for a traffic study in Story King Road, getting out the traffic analysis of Evergreen. But also, I want to talk to every one of the commissioners, the chair, the vice chair, and all the new commissioners. You have the power to do a right decision today. You have the power to do a smart planning. You have the power to override whatever the planning manager is saying and whatever the planning director says to appeal. You have to make that decision, and that decision is yours. One day, no long time in the future, you might be running for elected office. We will remember every one of you and when you did in these days. You heard the comments, and we would like to have the community, if it was not COVID-19, to get into the council chambers and bring all these people, like the lady that was speaking in Spanish. Great, what she was saying, because we feel the impact already. And if this is built, we will have the worst impact. Now, when I was talking about Cardenas Shopping Center, yeah, that's not Dennis Fong's fault. It's the fault of the City of San Jose code enforcement, because yeah, you are sending this for approval, but once it's approved, the City of San Jose will not take care of the work they have to do. And I have an example. Commissioner Bonilla, he knows where I live. He knows that a school that is there close to my house was built back in the 60s, where there was an easement between the City of San Jose and the residents. And that easement only stayed for 5 years. The residents forgot about the easement. The City of San Jose forgot about the easement, and nobody's taking care of that blighted place where they do dumping like every day. So this is the thing, that once the building is constructed, if allow it, they will not take care of this. Another thing, that is trash in our neighborhood. We only have a sweeping day a month. The sweeper never do the job right, like they, sweep in another parts of the city, and we are blighted all over the place. So the city is not doing the work they're supposed to do. Yeah, they want to grow, but to grow what? Smart? or to grow dumb or to grow with no intelligence to the future. Lastly, thank you very much. And for your information and all of those of you that don't know, especially like Commissioner Garcia, I think you are new. You as a planning commissioners, and I was one of them for 5 years at the County of Santa Clara, have the right, have the independence to cast your vote, have the independence to be yourself and make the right decision on this. And looking at the environmental impact report that is like 170 pages almost, I read it twice, I read it 3 times, and I read it the fourth time today. Read that, and that's a lie of the environmental impact report. And you haven't had time, please postpone this or do something, but I thank you very much. And your decision will be right, and I wish you the best to you and your family, all of you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Aaron.
Okay, at this time, we have 5 minutes for the applicant to respond, and then we will take questions from the commissioners to either the applicant or the appellant.
Okay, Jerry, you are unmuted.
Thank you, Chairwoman Caballero, and I want to thank on behalf of Dennis, you and all the commissioners for your time and your consideration tonight. A couple of things I'd like to address that were raised by the public comments, just to make sure we're all on the same page. There was a lot of discussion about when were the studies done, pre-COVID, post-COVID. Staff will inform you that the initial study was completed in March of 2019. All the studies relied on were prior to that date. So it's all pre-COVID. There's no influence from the shutdown going on there. The other thing I want to talk about is that the parking issue. We heard a lot about parking, and the staff memo explains it. But at the end of the day, the city parking requirements for this site are 447 parking spaces. There's 560 after the building is built. So that's an excess of 113 parking spaces. I know a lot of the neighborhood is upset. Ultimately, perhaps their upset should be with the city's parking ratios, but the applicant has complied with what they were requested to do by the the city's long-range plan, and that's what we've done. So parking, I don't think is an issue. The initial study addresses it. Staff has addressed it. Somebody talked about the target parking being included in the calculation, or maybe I misunderstood them, but I want to let you know that that is a standalone calculation just on the Tropicana site. It in no way involves across the street. The other issue that was raised a lot was traffic. And if you look at the initial study and you look at the staff report, you'll see that the city did its own traffic analysis. It was studied by an outside consultant, and there were no issues raised with traffic. Again, it comports with the VTA's congestion management plan as well. So traffic has been looked at and it's addressed, and it's not really a factor caused by this project. One of the main reasons being it's non-peak trips, office and retail don't generate nearly as much. So. And then the one other thing I'd like to point out, a lot of people when talking about the parking ratios and the traffic, if you look at the city's own land use plans, like land use 5.1, in order to create complete communities, promote new commercial uses, and revitalize existing commercial areas. We meet that one, obviously. The other one I would point to Commission 2 is land use 5.3, encourage new and intensification of existing commercial development, including standalone vertical mixed use or integrated horizontal mixed use projects consistent with the land use and transportation diagram. We check that box. And land use 5.6 specifically addresses this issue about using the parking field. It says encourage and facilitate the upgrading, beautifying and revitalization of existing strip commercial areas and shopping centers, minimize the visual impact of large parking lots by locating them away from the public streets. So in all the years I've done land use, this is one of the few projects I'm not seeking a variance. I probably never had a project that's checked as many boxes in terms of meeting up with all the different city plans, whether it's the Evergreen East Hills plan, it's the Kona Strong Neighborhood plan. And so we just don't think there's any basis for denying it. To the extent people don't like it, the parking ratios, that's really an issue with the city. The last thing I want to address is the easement issue. Mr. Sutton raised it. It is an express condition of this approval that we resolve the private easement issue before we pull any permits. So I'm as eager to get to Superior Court with Mr. Sutton as he is with me, and we have a different opinion. We believe that his deed that he's referring to was issued after the CC&Rs were recorded, and the CC&R specifically allow for majority owners of the center to amend or change the CC&Rs, including all the agreements that stem from them. So we have a different legal opinion, and a judge will have to decide who's right. And I think that's the best. I think the city staff addressed that perfectly by putting that condition there. It lets the two private parties resolve this issue, and it's not something the city should have to weigh in on. We thank you for your time. We believe that the planning director did an excellent job. The staff report addresses every issue, and there's no reason to deny this project, so the appeal should be denied.
Thank you. So I see a hand up for Vice Chair Bonilla, and I have several questions for the applicant and staff as well. So I invite commissioners to raise their hands if you have questions, and I will recognize Vice Chair Bonilla at this time for questions to the applicants or the appellants only before I close the public hearing.
This is a question of the applicant. Your position is that the parking situation is an issue with the city, not an issue with the applicant. But don't you think that there should be more that the applicant should do to mitigate that need in the community, that need for additional parking?
Am I unmuted?
You are now.
Okay, thank you. Well, I guess I would answer that as we didn't design up to the maximum. There's still, under the city's parking ratio, 113 extra parking spaces. I think that might be a legitimate question if we had attempted to go to the maximum footprint. But I mean, Dennis obviously is a businessman, and owns real estate out there, and he's got tenants, so he's not apt to do something that he thinks is going to jeopardize and diminish the value or the usefulness of that center.
So here's the fundamental problem I'm having with your position. First of all, my family has lived down the street from that mall for about 50 plus years. My office was literally across the street at that Cardenas, right next to it where the Harbor Freights is. Well, that was my office for 4 years before Harbor Freights came in. I know that community intimately. And I can tell you before this concept, and look, I like the building. I think it's a nice building. But before as is today, I have literally had plenty of days where I couldn't find parking at my office. I couldn't find parking at your site. I couldn't find parking at the Target. I literally had to park in the neighborhood in order to access my building. So to me, fundamentally, I'm not hearing the right level of commitment on the parking side. I mean, I get the legal arguments and there's plenty of room to wiggle, but I'm not seeing any real commitment from the applicant to truly mitigate this need. I think to the point that folks are listening out there, I think the easement issue, you're 100% right. That's a private issue. That's between all of you. But this parking issue is real. This parking issue is going to definitely negatively impact that community. I drove from the Cardenas right there next to Tropicana to roughly a little closer to Jackson Street. It took me about 40 minutes yesterday. It takes me that much to get to Palo Alto. So to tell me that you've done enough, you're working within the law, And that's good enough is not good enough, right? Because there really isn't a plan in place that shows me personally that you really are taking the needs of the community that is impacted. You know, the members of the community asked for us to come out. I was there every day. I'm there every day. And unequivocally, today, parking is a massive problem. Traffic is a massive problem. I don't need to spend $200,000 on the traffic study to tell you the traffic is horrible at that intersection. And I definitely know by adding more buildings, more apartments, offices going up, it's only going to add to those tensions. So I like your project conceptually, but I do not believe the project has done enough to mitigate the needs of the community. Although I don't live in that district, I'm absolutely impacted by it. And I can tell you unequivocally, that is a massive problem for the city, but that is also a problem for folks that are investing in that part of that city, of our city. We need solutions to parking, and I'm not hearing them right now. So unless I do, my position on this is that I cannot, in good conscience, vote to support your project when in actuality, your project, although aesthetically pleasing, aesthetically something I would like to see, something that is going to have even bigger negative consequences to the community from a parking and traffic standpoint. To me, I just can't do that. So it's up to you guys to show me if there's another way, but as of right now, I cannot vote in favor of this.
Thank you, Vice Chair Bonilla. Again, let's limit these comments to questions for the applicant or the appellant. We'll have plenty of opportunity after that we close the public hearing for discussion among the commissioners. I see Commissioner Torrens's hand up, recognizing you to ask your questions of either the applicant or the appellant.
Thank you very much. So my question is for the applicant. I want to know, after hearing from these residents and some of the business owners, what is your response to their concern about how having a three-story structure there is going to block the view of the businesses from the street? That is a problem that can definitely impact the success of these mom and pop shops. So what do you say to that?
I would say that
Wait, this is Dennis Fong, the applicant speaking now.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioner. Thank you for your question. I would respond to say that the visibility is not an issue. The operation and how well the shopping center is marketed and run, and the product tenant mix are the key driving factors in the success of a shopping center. And you can look at Valley Fair. Almost none of the stores in the middle of Valley Fair is visible to the public, correct? Let's go to Santana Row. How many of the stores in Santana Row can you see from the public? Look across the street, the Target shopping center. Can you see Target from the street? The answer is no. What makes a center successful is that you have the right product mix, the right service, and the right marketing. Now, take with all the tenants that are inside La Placita, small mom and pops. I have nurtured them over a 20-year time period. They're all doing well in spite of the COVID. And the reason is that the marketing have already driven the traffic that comes to La Placita because of the product mix and the service. It is all in the operations and marketing of a shopping center.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you very much. And then a follow-up question to that is, what are the plans for the ground floor retail space? Could this is just a thought that came to me, could the current businesses lease space there so that their business, if they feel like it needs more visibility, would they have the opportunity to lease that space?
I don't quite understand. You mean the existing business right now If
Yeah,
the-
the existing business now, would they be able to lease or buy or rent the spaces in the new building, the ground floor?
existing tenants can certainly ask to be considered for space within the ground floor. That is open. We also have other tenants that are interested in this space. So it is open, yes.
Would priority be given to those already in the shopping center?
The priority would be whether or not the tenant, by relocating there, is going to do the best in terms of drawing businesses and traffic to the shopping center. Now, for instance, if you want a 500 square foot space to do an ice cream shop, or versus, say, a large retailer that could be taking a 5,000 or 10,000 square feet that will serve the whole neighborhood that does not have that kind of service. Remember that in the years that in the 20 plus years at Tropicana, I have consistently made investments in it. When you look at pictures I've sent in 1998, the shopping center was a desolated place with buckets of empty parking space. But it had a problem. It didn't do very well. And then in 2000, I added 2 pad buildings along Story Road. That energized the shopping center. 2003, I took the defunct bankrupt Newberry building and converted it to La Placita. Today, it houses 40, 50 mom and pop businesses that sell the cultural products and the services that really represents the heart of the Latino community. So throughout these years, and then in 2013, I led the fight to put in a brand new parking lot. So throughout these years, if you look at the photos I've submitted, the leadership for providing the continuing improvements of Tropicana was provided by me. The objections and the fights has always been an existing property owner like Mr. Wee, who has to be threatened with lawsuits in order to pay for his share of the parking lot. So my record should speak for itself that I have made tens of millions of dollars in investment. Would I be so foolish as to put a building in there that would scuttle my investment if I did not think that the balance of the shopping center would be out of balance? So my whole heart belief, and I'm putting my money where my mouth is, and you can look at my record from 1998 to today, continue on, has been my commitment to make the shopping center and this neighborhood better in terms of physically, in terms of the tenant mix, and to keep making it the economic, social hub of the Latino community. And ask yourself, does that mean that I am a successful and smart businessman, or am I a total idiot to build a building, spending $10 million to build a building to shoot myself in the foot? That would be the question.
Great. Commissioner Torrance, do you have any additional questions?
No, that is all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'd like to acknowledge Commissioner Casey. If you have questions for the applicant or the appellant, please go ahead.
Thank you. My question is for the applicant. Mr. Fong, just to kind of ladder up to Commissioner Torrance's question. Now, you made the comment that Valley Fair and Santana Row, I believe, you mentioned that their success was based on their marketing. As a customer, and I went past the location a couple times over the past few days, and I can imagine traffic being an issue. And I know Valley Fair and Santana Row have gone to great lengths to include additional parking. They've built all sorts of garages and whatnot to accommodate their clients. Now you're saying that in no way, shape, or form you're concerned about parking at all with once you put a 3-story building up and all of the additional traffic that will come along with that, and additional employees that'll be housed in your new 3-story structure, traffic is not a concern at all for you, or parking?
Traffic, if you look at the plans that architect Steve Yang had provided, as part of this project, I will be building a new exit driveway on my land, not somebody else's land, to exit into Story Road. For those who have gone by Tropicana, you'll find that in terms of traffic, the greatest issue is a bottleneck. The driveway from Tropicana going out to Story Road has to cross 4 lanes to make a left turn onto King. It causes the bottleneck that also takes up more parking space. By creating a new exit right along the Calderon gas station, those people who want to exit Story Road and go to the far left turn lane will be able to use this relief valve to go to that left lane. The current lane will become then the exit for those who just want to make a right turn and continue on down Story Road, or make a right turn onto King Road. So that issue has been clearly addressed. The bottleneck, that's a Tropicana. I believe this project would add to that. And because of the bottleneck, it also cuts down circulation within the shopping center, because the bottleneck, the parking spaces are not freed up quickly enough, and that leads to the circulation problems. So I believe this project is planned to address both of those issues.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Seeing no other hands from other commissioners, I have several questions. So the chair's prerogative is to ask your questions now. First question is similar in vein to both Commissioner Casey and Commissioner Torrens. My understanding is that this development has been under consideration since at least 2016, or at least been thought of since 2016. As you were in the development process, what we have seen most recently on the Planning Commission is a move towards underground parking, or parking that is part of the building. Can you please discuss why this building has no parking included as part of its actual edifice itself, and any barriers or challenges related to underground parking?
Well, that was not included in the plan, because based on the parking ratios, we have exceeded the code ratio by 113 spaces, or 25% above the city requirement. Secondly, more in tune with the overall general plan of the city, and every smart city that's working on projects right now is a concern that they do not want a urban sprawl where there's massive parking lots. Parking lots in themselves do not make business success. If you look at the first 3 pictures I submitted of Tropicana in 1998, you will see that the parking lot is huge, but there's no cars in it. A huge parking lot is not a guarantee for success. That's why Tropicana failed. That's why Newberry failed. And it is all these recognizing what is a driving factor, what the neighborhood needs, and how to address those needs is what have made Tropicana a destination that it is today.
Thank you, Mr. Fong. My next question is, we heard from Aki and from a few other vendors. Does this building already have planned occupants? As in, have you already leased spaces in a building that doesn't yet exist?
We have a large retailer called WSS. WSS is the largest Latino shoe store in America. It has stores throughout the state, California, Arizona, Texas, Nevada, and The man who started this store, Mr. Eric Layden, started his career selling shoes from his pickup in the Los Angeles flea market. Now, there is a success story. And this man and his company wants to be at Tropicana. He would take a lot of most, if not all, of the ground floor because he wants to have his flagship at Tropicana. Now imagine when for 20 years we talk about the Strong Neighborhood Initiative, the Kona, what we need and want in a community. Our stores that will once serve the community give us a better, wider selection of services and to have stores that inspire our community. Here's a man, came from Mexico, selling shoes from his pickup in the flea market. Today is the biggest Latino shoe store in America. That is a story that we should look at and see. Why does he want to be at Tropicana if he sees that there's problem with traffic and parking? He has a team, a whole department of people that evaluates and calculates. Now, would he spend millions to build a store at Tropicana if he sees that all these problems is going to make his store fail? Again, you look at what I said from the beginning. It is the product mix. It's a service you offer to community. It is what inspires people to come to a shopping center because it has everything that they want. Now, you think about it, I want to buy a pair of shoes. So I drive down the street. I want to get a haircut. I'll go to the next street on Knox. I want to go have a restaurant food. I'll go another street. What this has done, Tropicana, is it has become such a success in the Latino community is because it offers a Latino community everything it wants in one place. So instead of making 5 trips to get everything you want, you make one car, one trip with your family, and you get everything at Tropicana. That is what smart planning, and that's what about traffic control, reducing congestion and reducing parking requirement. That's what it's about, the consolidation of trips.
I'm going to interrupt you. I appreciate your ability to tell a great story. You know, I could probably listen to you all night long. However, we do need to get to other questions. And so I appreciate that you answered my question sufficiently. I do have one final question, and I would ask you to be brief in your response. What actions have been taken to date to address the easement issue with the other tenants?
The easement issue?
What actions have been taken to date to address the easement issue?
Well, we have done, as Mr. Houlihan said, extensive studies. The easements clearly state the original CC&R recorded is what we call the source document, the first document recorded in a shopping center. It has dictated that the majority landowner has a right to revise, amend, terminate, or rewrite these CC&Rs. And we certainly be more than happy to negotiate to talk about it. In terms of there's no, people can discuss what they need, but we need to sit down and talk about a realistic resolution. We can negotiate or we can go to court. However, I think negotiation where everybody's interest is served would be the best solution.
So, Mr. Fong and Mr. Houlihan, just to be clear, this project has been under consideration or development since at least 2016, and there's been no negotiation so far related to addressing the easement, is what you're saying, that you're welcome to entertain those negotiations, but you haven't actually engaged in any so far.
This is Mr. Houlihan. No, actually, that's not exactly accurate. We have been working, oh boy, longer than since this project's been in, trying to adopt modern CC&Rs for this center. This is a unique center in the sense that there's different ownership interests. It's not like Valley Fair where you got one company that owns the majority of it and a couple major tenants. That CC&Rs are outdated. So we have been working with a lot of the owners through Jim Little as their attorney, drafting what I would call a more modern, updated, sort of modeled after a normal shopping mall or so no, we have actually been doing that. There have been impediments to that with people not wanting to pay for certain things, which has kind of been the history out there. And so when that sort of stopped, we're doing it all at once. We're rewriting the CC&Rs and the easement. It's all part of the same process. And I have reached out to Jim Little, the owner's attorney. Now, not all. Henry, who's on the phone, has a different attorney, but some of the other owners are represented by Jim Little, and explain to him what we're doing. And there has been a draft that's been circulated of those CC&Rs about 2 years ago. And that's the document that would be changing the easements as well. It's the parking lot agreement and the CC&R. So there has been work going on, but not directly related to this project.
Okay, thank you very much for that clarification. I'm not seeing any more questions of the applicants or the appellants from our commissioners. So at this time, I'd like to close the public hearing. I want to open it up for additional commissioner questions for the project manager. I myself have several, but I'll let the other commissioners ask their questions first. I'm seeing a hand up from Commissioner Lardinois. So we'll start with him and several other hands from other commissioners.
Thank you, Chair. So yeah, I have a couple process questions. So my understanding is that the permit that was already approved is conditional on the easement issues being resolved in court. So if this appeal is denied, then the permit would still stand with those conditions. Is that correct?
No.
Oh.
No, it would not. I'm sorry. This is Vera Todorov, the city attorney's office, and that is not accurate. This hearing is a hearing de novo, which means you're hearing this anew. If permit is denied, the appeal is denied, which is actually the wrong term here. The commission will either vote to approve the permit or deny the permit. Approve the permit with conditions or deny the permit. This is a new hearing. So that permit has no validity currently that was issued by the director.
I would note that the permit condition that was previously approved by the director is carried over into the resolution that is being considered by the planning commission.
Yes, it is.
So if you do vote, I think what you're saying, and maybe it's a phrase is a little tongue, if you are voting to approve it, that condition will carry over. It's in the same as in the resolution by the planning commission today.
Okay. And then, thank you for that clarification. And then as a more, this is a question coming from me as a new commissioner. If we vote to deny the project, what happens is it basically if the applicant wanted to still move forward, they would have to start the entire process over from the beginning, or how does that work?
They would either do that or they would litigate your decision with a writ of mandate or something. The planning commission, if it desires to do something other than what's suggested by staff, needs to make all of the findings or say that they cannot make the findings that begin on page 8 of your staff report. They go from page 8 to page 10. And those would need to be considered by the commission, and we would need to have findings for denial in the same manner that we have findings for approval.
Thank you for that clarification. That's it for me for now.
Great, thank you. I'm going to acknowledge Commissioner Oliverio at this time.
Thank you, Chair. These questions are for professional planning staff. This project meets the general plan. Is that correct?
Oh, you're freezing, Commissioner Oliverio.
Yeah.
I believe the question was,
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Next question for staff. This development meets the requirements of the specific plan, correct?
Not a specific plan, but it does meet the East Hill development area policy. It's not in a specific plan per se. It is
Okay,
in a
very
traffic.
good. I know that, would it be fair to say that the City Council and Planning Commission approved projects on specific plans such as Japantown and Midtown that date back to the early 90s?
Yes, they still use some of those documents for references for current projects.
Great. Maybe for Public Works, traffic level D. How long should it take to get through an intersection on traffic level D? I keep hearing 45 minutes. And if professional staff could answer that question.
So with the level of service of D, significant congestion on some of the approaches, there is congestion, but in general, vehicles are required to wait more than one cycle during the short peaks. And so that's why it is a level of service of D that we do anticipate them to sit there in more than one cycle.
And what's the average light cycle at a major intersection like that?
Roughly 120 seconds.
So nowhere near 45 minutes if you did 240 seconds.
No.
Okay. Professional planning staff, would it be fair to say the General Plan 2040 is looking at shopping centers with tons of asphalt parking and is encouraging the redevelopment in more intense manner than they currently are?
Yes.
And on parking, do we approve developments based on anecdotal stories or requirements and ratios? And if so, why so?
I don't quite understand the question, actually. Can you rephrase that question?
When professional planning staff is looking to make a recommendation on a project and it has requirements or ratios of parking based on square footage of the proposed development, does professional planning staff make the decision to support or deny based on those ratios or standards, or from anecdotal stories from individuals?
So professional staff has a set of rules and guidelines that we have to determine if a project is consistent with it. In general, if a project is consistent with the parking ratio and not requesting reductions that require additional parking analysis, we would defer to the city's parking ratio.
Thank you. And then does the city have the legal right to choose the commercial tenants in a private development?
Sarah?
No.
Thank you. Does the city have a legal right to alter private CC&Rs?
Not in this instance.
And
one of the things walking into this project, Commissioner Oliverio, is that we have no jurisdiction to adjudicate, arbitrate, mediate, or do anything with regard to a private easement. That needs to be dealt with by the owners, and the condition of approval tells them how they need to do that to satisfy our concerns with the validity of any such action.
And do decisions made by Planning Commission and City Council, should they be, well, I'll stick it with Planning Commission only, based on what is the law or ordinance today versus what could be the law or ordinance in the future?
Yes, the staff has to find conformance to existing policies that are currently applicable to a site now.
Thank you. As far as the height on a major road of 3 stories, does this is this within the realm of reality what the city has planned in this area for height?
It is permitted by the zoning code to go up to those height. We do take in neighborhood context as one of the consideration. In this case, given the size and the commercial center, staff has found it to be consistent with the general area, and as well as it being an employment growth area, allowing for further intensification of infill sites.
Thanks. And then we, the city of San Jose, as well as municipalities across the countries, are struggling with shelter in place and trying to be safe, and we have utilized technology such as these web meetings. Is there any legal jurisdiction that city's business should stop because it can't hold public with people in person?
The city is complying with state laws during COVID in the manner in which it's conducting these hearings and meetings.
Okay, those are my questions for professional planning staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Oliverio. I'd like to recognize Vice Chair Bonilla.
They're all great questions, actually, Commissioner Olivero. I think in many ways I do feel bad for the applicant in the sense that they are relying on laws that in many ways feel outdated, right? I mean, if I were their attorney, I'd respond more than likely the same way. But fundamentally, I think if everything we do is purely formulaic, then there's no reason to have a planning commission. Just follow the formula, call it a day. But the fundamental truth is we're here. And one of the reasons that we fought for different points of view is exactly for these types of moments. Unequivocally, again, am I a study? Of course not. But it cannot be argued that there is a major congestion problem. There is a major parking problem in that area. There is and yes, it's anecdotal in the sense that, I am not an official study, but I've lived it. And I've seen it for years. In fact, I lived it today. So I think for me, the fundamental issue is of all the elements. I agree. The easement's a private issue. The size of the building is an issue to be that the city allows. But to me, I am not hearing enough on a problem, on something that has the potential to become a bigger problem long-standing. And in many ways, I think the applicant's caught in between the policies that were and the policies that may very well be soon enough. But I think for me, I can't be supportive of something that's not taking into account what is already a major problem in that community. We can have a formula for anything, and the formula can be good or bad, or depending on whatever we want it to look like. But nothing ever replaces the actual experiential part of all of this. And to me, traffic is a massive problem there. Parking is an even bigger problem there. I think Mr. Fong is a great, I can see why he's successful. And he brought up a good point. Why would a major company do their research and want to be a tenant at Tropicana? I think that answers the question. I think when we look at housing trends in East San Jose, the numbers are growing exponentially in every part of this district. So there's going to be more cars, there's going to be more traffic, and I am not seeing a plan take that into consideration. This plan may work today, but if we want this proposal, if this building wants to succeed, what is its 15 to 20-year plan for that parking growth? It's not there. I don't see it. So for me, I think the position is quite clear that in many ways I would like to see this project, but I can't see it coming out at the expense of an already exasperated problem when it comes to parking and traffic in this particular section of San Jose.
I'm not seeing any other questions from the commissioners. I have a few questions for staff myself. If any of the commissioners would like to ask additional questions, I'll recognize them after I ask my questions. My first question for staff is, can you list the conditions that are required in the current resolution? I saw aviation easement, sewage, and TIF fees. Are there any others? And what does it mean to have those be conditions for the building permit? And this is more for the edification of the public who's still listening.
So conditions can take a lot of different means and ways, right? So some conditions can be triggers for other action. So for example, there might be conditions that prior to getting your public works clearance, you had to pay your impact fees, do certain types of plans, ensure you have cellular tie-up. So the two ones that are talking about easement is really for kind of the dispute that's happening among the private properties. We're aware that we're not going to adjudicate them, just that the applicant has agreed to a condition that if they cannot adjudicate those easements private among them, that the city is not going to issue them a building permit. They have agreed to this condition in terms of doing that. So a lot of the other conditions are just things that say you will have to do, or we won't issue certain things, or if you do violate these conditions, we have the ability to go through a process and revoke your permit.
Okay. My second, and so it's specifically related to the easement. The property owners who are in dispute at the moment would be required to come to some sort of resolution prior to a building permit being issued to actually break ground on this property, correct?
Vera can clarify what, there was a lot of discussion with Vera, but it isn't necessarily, they don't necessarily have to come to an agreement if a court or a quick claim or some other ways have declared a certain position.
Yeah,
That's why I wanted to say they don't. It's not always like when you go to court, I agree with you and this is whatever. It's
yes,
there's a mechanism.
some sort of resolution
Yes.
must occur.
Yeah, there's a resolution that has to occur. Yes.
They can either voluntarily agree and sign, extinguish the easement as the people that have claims against Mr. Fong. There are three alternatives there, and I'm sorry, those two of them kind of are covered by that. The other one is they go to court and have a quiet title action, get a quiet title against. Mr. Fong would have to quiet title against the other owners who are claiming that they have an easement for parking on the property, and that a court would adjudicate. And we have included those conditions before. The city, as I said, does not get into these private property disputes, but what we do is we require proof that they have clear title to the property before they get their building permit. Currently, we don't feel that we have that proof. I have inches and inches of deeds and interpretations from both sides of this argument. And I do not have the jurisdiction, and I do not want to, on behalf of the city, recommend that the city take any action to determine the validity of any easement or the invalidity of easements claimed. That needs to happen with the court or with the consent of all the parties.
So just to clarify, if they are not able to meet that condition in a timely manner, because these permits do expire, he's not going to be able to be issued a building permit. The project will not happen.
Can't get a building permit or the permit will expire.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and then I see Sam Y has his hand up. Is that to answer a question from?
Good evening, commissioners. This is Sam with the Department of Public Works. I just want to clarify a few items regarding the traffic. And the Evergreen East Hill Development Policy did a traffic study as part of that policy, and it accounted for up to 75,000 office space, 75,000 square foot of office space, as well as 500,000 square feet of retail space. And out of that 75,000 square feet of office space, 25,000 square feet of office space is allocated towards this corridor along south of Story between 101 and Capitol Expressway, and 344,000 square feet of 1,000 square feet of retail was allocated along this corridor again. So there was so the traffic was accounted for as part of that that Evergreen East Hills development policy, and so the policy also indicated that an impact will not require mitigation under three conditions, and one of which is that the intersection will continue to operate at a level service D or better. So the intersection of Astoria and King is currently operating at a level of service of D. And our traffic team did additional analysis using 2018 counts and using peak hour counts. And with the project and the surrounding approved developments, the intersection will continue to operate at a level of service D. The second condition is the improvements create undesirable conflicts with other modes of travel. In this case, the project is actually widening the sidewalk. They're constructing bus stop improvements. And the third condition is that the development causing impact is within the scope of the development pool, which it is. So it is part of that allocation of the 25,000 square feet of office space, as well as the 344,000 square feet of retail. So again, the city did additional traffic studies on top of what the Evergreen East Hills development policy did. So we have not just anecdotal data in terms of how that intersection will function, but actual traffic analysis of that Story and King intersection.
Well, thank you, Sam, because you answered my next question, so I don't have to ask that one. I have two more questions. The first one is, what is the height of the existing buildings in the shopping center? I heard concern about the fact that there's a 3-story building that's being considered. What's the height of the other buildings? And I know that this can go up to 50 feet, which is, I think, the height that this building is being recommended at or planned at.
I apologize. I do not have the exact height of those buildings that are nearby. In general, a lot of them are one story with a little bit of a higher parapet. So in general, one story can go anywhere from, minimum 15 feet, but these do have architectural elements. So they can go, I've seen some that I think I measured, they were like 25 to 35 feet.
Okay, thank you.
Through
And
the
then
chair, through the chair. I'm so sorry. John, is there any way to actually answer that question for the chair? I mean, it's kind of an important fact. There's a reason she's asking. I mean, now would be a time to kind of get that information so that she can actually make the comparison in her personal analysis.
I will try to do that while you ask your next question if I can. It does involve that I would have to go digging through some of those. If Mr. Fong, or actually they do have the other chair, Steve Yang did design the other buildings that are there, would probably have a much better idea of that. I do apologize. In terms of the height, they did vary quite a bit. So it was kind of hard to say this was the height or not because there was quite a different articulation.
Well, there's a few other commissioners who want to speak, so I'll let you get that answer while we address my final question is the appellant and several folks requested that we delay this hearing. In the staff report, there was some conversation about why the timing concerns and why this was the last date that this item could come before the commission. Can you please describe that situation and why this item should or could not be delayed? And Vera, feel free to jump in if this is more of a legal question. Anyone?
I'll answer it since staff is not. I wasn't aware that this was the last date that this could happen. However, you have opened the public hearing. If you desire to continue it for deliberation, for example, or additional information from staff, you may do so. If you have a motion to continue it, it would have to be continued to a date certain. And I suggest that that be as soon as possible. Giving staff the time to do whatever it is that the commission as a whole is asking them to do.
Thank you.
Again, you would have to continue to a date certain.
Okay, thank you. At this time, I'm going to recognize Commissioner Lardinois and then Commissioner Oliverio.
Chair. So I believe from the discussion and from what I read, I have a relatively good understanding of the parking easement issue, but could someone explain the air easement issue? Because that's something I did not really understand.
So in general, when you have aviation airports that are nearby, when you own a piece of land, you own all the way from the ground to the center of the earth, all the way to the sky. So in general, when there's an airport nearby and they do have a chance to provide their feedback, they generally want to say that you're going to grant me an AVA issue that you would never build a building in depending on kind of the space they need. They can say above 300 feet from this site. They may not be an issue for them in terms because we would never allow a height that tall in that area, but it is still a request that a lot of airports will ask as we go through entitlements of projects. This happens a lot more in downtown, but we do have to consider that the Reed Airport is nearby on here. And they are requesting that they would need a recordation of an easement potentially depending on the flight paths and other issues that they are concerned with at that airport.
If I can add to that, the FAA sets the limits by which the height that you can build. And so the abrogation easements tend to be noticed to a property owner that you can only build toward a certain height. They often, I haven't seen the one for this, but they often, for example, also have a disclaimer that you will have airport noise, for example, and that type of thing. So that those are typically requested by owners of airports on property and required.
And so when this permit was originally approved, a decision was made to include the resolution of that easement issue as a condition. Is that correct?
This was a request from the airport to add that condition. We did confirm with the applicant if they're okay with putting that condition. They did confirm they're okay with that conditions, hence why it was included as a condition of the permit.
Thank you. And then more newbie questions. So I want to better understand better understand appeals, I suppose. So my understanding is after the permit was originally approved, 3 separate appeals were filed, and then only one of them raised issues that were timely, and that's why we're having this hearing tonight. So if the permit is approved tonight, what forms of appeal hypothetically could be made?
So this would be the final
I
report.
mentioned,
Go ahead, sorry.
go ahead, John.
This would be the final, this would be the end of the appeal process from the city's perspective. After this would be a private matter and how they want to resolve it, is my understanding.
The Planning Commission's decision could be challenged if someone did not agree with it. But the Planning Commission is the final decision maker on this permit for the city.
Thank you for answering my questions.
Okay, Commissioner Oliverio put his hand down. I'm not seeing any other hands from our commissioners for additional questions from staff. So at this point, I would ask for a motion from commissioners.
Like the motion.
I'm
to
sorry,
chair.
Bonilla?
Yes. I'd like to motion that we not accept staff's recommendation.
Need a second?
Is that motion then to deny the appeal?
Correct.
To deny the permit? Okay.
I would like to motion that we deny the permit. And this, I'll leave it at that.
Vice Chair Bonilla, you're saying to deny, to approve the appeal.
To approve the appeal to overturn the initial decision, correct?
Yeah, technically, because this is a new hearing, it would be to deny the permit. You have to hear everything brand new. It would be to deny the permit. And what I will ask the commission, if that's something that you are interested in, is I would ask you to go through the findings on page 8 through 10 and give reasons for your denial.
Is there a second?
I was just going to call that. Thank you. Do we have a second? Okay, I'm not seeing a second.
I second. I'll second that motion.
Okay, Commissioner Garcia, we have a second. So at this time, I would ask for the findings as Vera, and then we can also, as we're doing that.
Who was the seconder? I'm sorry.
Commissioner Garcia was the second.
Thank you.
Do we have any discussion on the motion? Would either of the, yes, Commissioner Oliverio.
Yeah, I will, before I was asking questions, now I'll make my comments regarding the application. So number one, this meets the general plan. Number two, this meets the other neighborhood plan that was been in place for a long time. This is a commercial use on commercial property. All over this city, upwards of maybe 40 to 50 surface parking lot shopping centers that we're used to with this kind of traditional retail are all across the city. And all of them everywhere are going to be looking to change uses and intensify in every single council district, in every single neighborhood. So this discussion tonight, call it a case study, call it what you will, it'll be happening throughout the going forward for this planning commission. And guess what? Most people fearful of infill development, fearful of intense development, fearful of all those things that we're familiar with. With that said, you know, this is kind of this notion on traffic. As we know, vehicle miles traveled is the new methodology that'll be utilized. And that is the reality that traffic reports or any consideration of traffic by the California state legislature is nearly all gone. You know, one of the results of San Jose not building on agricultural land and on hillsides is that there's higher infill development within the city. And this project is nothing extraordinary in height. It's a major road. This isn't shadowing someone's house. I mean, I pointed to this a few weeks ago. We approved 7 stories in a residential single-family home neighborhood. This isn't there. This is a major, major street. And you can see this change over time. If you're going to a commercial shopping center, they call it a pad, and they will install a new building because there's just excess parking. And so that was a factor there. I like the architecture personally, and I think this is creating a greater sense of place that have been happening to this area for the 22 years. I think it'll be an architectural improvement. You know, we don't approve or deny applications based on where the person may live. I think that professional planning staff on the onset described it met all the requirements, and I think I can't find the findings to deny. And I think that would be perilous for us to make that, to approve the current motion. I also am uncomfortable. The Planning Commission is an independent body. We are not supposed to have council offices intervening in the decision. So I'm uncomfortable if any mention from a council office having an opinion on the item before the commission, because we are independent. So I just want to state that for the record. So I would like to make an alternative motion, a substitute motion, and simply to approve the permit as professional planning staff has recommended to this commission.
We have so I'm gonna hold that for a second until we take a vote on this item. Is there any other, yes.
I believe I'm allowed to make a substitute motion.
Yes. So do we have a second for the substitute motion? The current motion on the floor is to, or the substitute motion on the floor is to approve staff recommendation.
Correct. And without a second, it fails.
I'm going to
Thank you.
second that motion.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, Commissioner Torrance? Okay, so we have a second to the motion. So I think at this point, we need to.
And who was the second?
Commissioner
Who was the second
Torrance.
on this? Thank you.
So we have a first motion, which is to deny. Commissioner or Vice Chair Bonilla or Commissioner Garcia, would you like to speak to your current motion and include any findings for denial?
Sure. I'm sorry, Chair, the traffic here in the ear. The finding for me would be traffic access, pedestrian access, and parking are not adequate. I mean, and fundamentally for me, it's this. I mean, if anyone's okay with having this type of congestion in their neighborhood that's already congested, then that's fine. But the reality is, you know, we can talk about policies, we can talk about guidelines, but there is a human aspect to this, which is why we exist as a body. If this is only about formula and punch cards, basically, there's no planning commission. Why are we here? But we are here, and we're here to bring in that additional point of view. Now, I do agree with Commissioner Olivero. I think I want to make clear we are an independent body, and I wasn't comfortable with that either. But that aside, this is where the human experience comes into play. This is why there was a fight to have diverse geographic points of view, because there's going to be moments such as this one where some of us are just a lot more intimately involved and a lot more intimately tied in, not only to the decision, but to the repercussions. So with that, I agree. I like the building. I like the project, but it's not addressing a major issue that is going to cause big problems. And let's have a bigger conversation. I think Councilmember Olivero, I mean, there you go. Commissioner Olivero, there you go. I mean, you were there at City Council. I mean, to get the type of support that we would need to even mitigate this on the city side, it's going to take a long time, if ever. So I think for us, a lot of it is preventative, and a lot of it is making sure that we are in a place where anyone that brings projects into into this side of San Jose takes into account parking traffic issues. To me, it's just a no-brainer.
Any other comments on this motion from discussion from the commissioners? Commissioner Garcia?
So thank you. So my position is similar to Vice Chair Bonilla's, because, you know, I used to work at the Chase location right there across the way in the Mi Pueblo Center that's now whatever it is, and the that area. I also had frequented that other center, Tropicana, quite often currently. I don't find that there's a shortage of parking. I find that there's a challenge to get out of the parking lot. So really, to place the new improvement where there's currently an exit is just exacerbating the problem, right? And I just simply don't. It might work on paper, but it doesn't work in reality. And the reality is that I don't see collaboration here. I mean, it seems like there's an imposition of will regarding the CC&Rs and the easement, and for us to say that's not for us to resolve, it's not. But by approving this and then allowing them to figure it out on their own later, we're changing the balance of power in that situation. We shouldn't even consider this until that's resolved, in my opinion, right? So we're involving ourselves in their fight. It really is what we're doing, the way I see it. So I just think there's more work to be done on this.
Thank you, Commissioner Garcia. Not seeing any. Oh, Commissioner Lardinois, you have your hand up. Is that from before or current?
No, I have another process question. So my understanding is that if the commission wants to disagree with the staff recommendation, we have to provide alternate findings. And is there, my understanding, or what I'm trying to ask is there any minimum standard or form that those findings have to take? I don't know if staff is allowed to answer this question, but I'm trying to get a sense of whether the vice chair's findings are
Staff would have to, excuse me, staff would have to rework the resolution to include what it's heard tonight from you. And what it would have to include is what is caused by this project that does not meet the rules in the criteria that you have for the site development permit issuance. Not are there problems in the community, not is there an issue with something across the street, not do people park all over the place, you know, from different shopping centers in this shopping center and vice versa, that kind of thing. What is caused by this addition to the Tropicana Center that causes an impact that it does not speak, or does not affirmatively allow you to make the findings for approval? And that's what we're looking for. And so what I would suggest, if this motion were to be approved, is that staff take your comments and attempt to come up with some kind of findings to be considered. We would close the public hearing tonight, continue to another meeting, and staff would bring you its attempt at those findings for you to review.
Okay. I have, Commissioner Lardinois, does that answer your question for the moment?
I believe so, yes.
So I have one process question, and then I'd like to make some comments. So my process question is, should this motion fail and Commissioner Oliverio's motion be successful, what is the time frame in which the applicants and the property owners are required to meet a resolution before their permit expires? I heard mention that if they can't find a resolution, the permit expires and they basically have to start all over again. So is there a time limit?
The permit has a 4-year condition on it. Usually it's normally 2, but given the current COVID situation, understanding the market, there's been direction to extend the permit to up to 4, as well as 2 potential 1-year extensions.
So potentially it could be up to 6 years for them to try to come to some sort of resolution on the parking easements and the other issues, the other conditions. Okay.
It's also up to the applicant if they want to build as well. There's a lot of things that would go into it as well. Yeah.
Of course. So my comments are this. I am struggling with this item, because like Commissioner Oliverio, I'm struggling to find the evidence that shows that we should deny the permit. I grew up not far from here, off of Story and White. I drive through this neighborhood regularly. I was just at the Target last week. Parking and traffic are continued issues. However, I also am a proponent of infill development, and so I guess my general concern is a policy issue which needs to be resolved at the council level, which is that it seems that this policy is outdated for this neighborhood, and that this area should not potentially not be included in the Evergreen East Hills, because it's so far away from Evergreen East Hills and the actual sort of area that plan is meant to include. So I personally, while I completely also agree with Commissioner Bonilla that the quality of life and the traffic issues are very, very real issues, and I want to thank all of the folks who came out to speak, and the many, many letters and emails and petitions and the community meetings. Like, we hear you, we understand, and we are also constrained by the rules in which under which we operate. And so I am concerned that this applicant doesn't really seem to be very collaborative, that there have been issues at the site over and over again over the years that I've heard about throughout my career. And I work in this neighborhood regularly in Kona, Tully, Tacna area. So I'm very, very familiar. But unfortunately, I personally don't feel like I have enough evidence to make a decision to deny. So as much as I would love to support this motion, I'm not going to be able to at this time, unless there's additional evidence that we can cite for the denials. So I'm going to call the question because it is 9 p.m. And
Commissioner Caballero, as always, Commissioner Oliverio puts me through my cases in terms of taking a look at rules of order as far as this time substitute motion. And what happens with a substitute motion, let me get my cat out of the way. Substitute motion, yeah, that's one of them, yeah. Anyway, is that, excuse me, if you have a substitute motion, that motion is actually heard first.
Okay.
And there's discussion on that motion first. If it fails, then you go to the first motion and you discuss that motion and vote on that as well.
Okay, so at this time then, since we took that out of order, I will ask, so Commissioner Oliverio has already made some comments related to his motion. I'll ask the motion maker if he would like to make any additional comments, and then recognize the seconder to ask if she would like to make any additional comments.
Thank you, Chair. To the findings for denial of parking, traffic, and pedestrian, again, I have a difficult time getting there with overage of parking based on the city standards and ratios, with improvements to the sidewalk by making the sidewalk wider and installing a new bus station, as well as the city vehicle miles traveled versus traffic reports. At Bascom and San Carlos, there was a redevelopment of a shopping center there at the corner. That new development, if you drive by there, will be a new building that blocks all the other tenants. And that came to the city council, and nearly every tenant was opposed to the development because they felt they would be blocked. But because the city and its general and planning staff want development on the sidewalk, not far back, that's what we approved. That's open today. That shopping center, pre-COVID, full. But we faced these challenges before, and we've gone through there. So I appreciate everyone's patience, and so I'm sticking. I encourage you to support the substitute motion and approve this, and support professional planning staff. Thank you.
Commissioner Torrens, would you like to make any comments related to your motion? Your second.
I would. Thank you. I have felt like we've been in a tug of war all night, and I've been on both sides. This is a really difficult decision because my heart is with the people who are experiencing the traffic congestion, the parking problems. And I am so impressed with this neighborhood's coming together and all the time they have spent in appealing this, because they want the best for their neighborhood. And then I hear from the applicant as well, the investments that he's made in the neighborhood to make this a flourishing center, and it's become a beloved center. And so I have to say that I seconded this, approving the permit, because I feel like if it's not a good project, it's not going to go through because of the easement issue, and it will get stopped there. But I feel like it's our job as a planning commission to check the boxes, to rely on the expertise of the planning staff, that everything is in place and proper. And so I feel also the need to support, but my heart is with the community. But I do feel that this will in the long run be in the interest of the community, because it's an investment in the community. It's something positive. It's bringing more commerce there. And so I'm planning to go and support this shopping center now and in the future, and any other projects that you need help with. So that is why I'm seconding this motion.
Do we have any other discussion from other commissioners? All right, I'm not seeing any hands waving at me or anybody having their hands raised in the participant box. So I'm gonna call the question and ask for a roll call vote on the staff recommendation to consider the mitigated negative declaration for the Tropicana Shopping Center Commercial Development Project in accordance with CEQA, and adopt a resolution denying the appeal and upholding the director's approval of the site development permit, including findings and conditions to allow the construction of a new approximately 31,000 square foot 3-story retail and office building within an existing shopping center on an approximately 3.39 gross acre site, which is what the staff recommendation says. So if we could do a roll call vote at this time, Vice Chair Bonilla.
No.
Vice Chair, Commissioner Casey, sorry.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes. Commissioner Garcia.
No.
Commissioner Lardinois. Can't hear you.
You said no. I'm just kidding.
All right, I said yes.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Commissioner Alvaria.
That was a joke.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear Commissioner Oliverio, but I'm assuming that's a yes.
That's a yes.
Okay, Commissioner Torrens.
It's a yes.
And Commissioner Caballero is a yes. And we're going to take a moment. Part of our new process is to let the staff show on the screen the vote. And so I'll ask for the staff to please project the vote. And that motion passes. So at this time, my understanding, Vera, then from what you said, is that we do not take the original motion under consideration since the substitute motion passed.
Correct.
Okay. So with that, thank you so much to everyone who, again, spoke. We will move on to our next item, which is item number 6. Referrals from city council, boards, commissions, or other agencies, and we have no items on that agenda item. So no action. Item number 7 is the good and welfare. And do we have a report from city council under 7A?
Yes, we do. 3 items went from this commission to the city council and they were all approved. They are PDC 17035, which is planned development rezoning for property located at 7201 Back Lane. PP20, temporary extension of certain land use permits and certain tree removal permits. And PDC 022, etc., which is a planned development rezoning, tentative map, and a planned development permit for property located at 4349 San Felipe Road. They all passed, were approved. Thank you.
Thank you. Number 7B is review and approve action minutes from the July 22nd, 2020 Planning Commission meeting. Do we have a motion to approve those minutes, or do we have any changes? Sorry, first, do we have any changes to the minutes? Seeing no hands, do we have any, do we have a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Torrens and I believe second by Commissioner Oliverio. Was that accurate?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you, Commissioner Oliverio. Do we have any discussion on this item? Okay. Seeing none, we'll take a roll call vote for approval of the minutes. Vice Chair Bonilla,
Aye.
Commissioner Casey,
Aye.
Commissioner Garcia,
Aye.
Commissioner Lardinois,
Aye.
Commissioner Oliverio,
Aye.
Commissioner Torrens,
Aye.
Commissioner Caballero is also an aye. We'll wait for that vote to be, I don't know if this one also requires us to show it, but that my count is that all the commissioners voted aye, and that was an approval. Item number C, subcommittee formation reports and outstanding business. Do we have any
There's
items? No, thank you, Robert. No items on this. So item number 7D is commission calendar and study sessions. There is a request for a 2020 Planning Commission retreat to be held in September or October and to discuss topics to be covered during the retreat.
That's correct. So every year in the fall, there is a Planning Commission retreat. So we agendize this so that commissioners can discuss the topics that they are interested in so that we can follow up to make sure that that happens.
Commissioners, do we have any topics that we'd like to give to the Planning Commission staff at this time for the retreat in September or October? Oh. Uh-oh. Can people hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so I'm not hearing any folks providing topics. I would actually request that we bring this item back to the next commission meeting, and then we can maybe give the commissioners a little bit more time to think about what they'd like to hear about at the retreat, if that's all right.
Sure. Yeah, and the other thing is that the commissioners can certainly send their requests to Robert, for example, or if there's someone else you want to designate, and they can bring them back at the next meeting and you can prioritize if they have, several, for example.
Sure.
I also wanted to mention that because of COVID, you're missing a planning retreat tradition, which was that we would have a topic and planning would actually take us on site visits to show us what was right and what went wrong. And we're missing that because of COVID. So hopefully next year, we'll be able to do that with you.
That's right, yeah.
Yes.
At the
Yeah,
Maui
last year we did, we visited two affordable housing shelter communities. It was really great. So really enjoyed that. It was my first, meeting. Okay, so we'll, Robert, you'll let us know which staff member
Yes,
we should send.
emails can be sent to me. That's fine. And Jennifer copied.
Okay, wonderful. So commissioners, if you have topic suggestions, please send them to Robert and CC Jennifer, and we will bring this item back up next month to prioritize those items. Do we have any items for the public record? Not seeing any. I don't know. Okay. So with that, I think our meeting is over. Thank you everyone for your time, and I look forward to seeing you all at our next meeting.
Well, good night, everyone.
Meeting adjourned.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.